In this video we're going to be looking at various tactics and different approaches to winning a game of pool. So what I'm going to do here is just show you 3 examples of me playing matches against myself, playing by world rules, and talk through the various approaches in each of these games. So the easiest way to win a game of pool is to pot all of the balls in one go and not let your opponent have a shot. Now that's obviously a lot easier said than done, and there are various things that come into play, like how the balls fall in the first place and whether the balls spread nicely, and then also whether you're a good enough player to execute all of the shots without missing and to get the positions you need. But the most important thing is to, if you're going to go for the clearance, is to have a real careful look at the table, like I'm doing here, working out where there's any potential problems and trying to plan my way through and making sure that I think I can make that clearance before I attempt it. Now on this table the yellows look quite nice, but we've just got this one ball over near the middle pocket that's a little bit difficult. So I'm looking already at trying to work out how I can move that red away from the middle pocket to enable me to make the clearance. So by playing that shot there, I can play this ball back to the middle, and then hopefully I'll have a shot on that middle yellow and be able to drop that in and just move that red out the way, and then that opens everything up to enable me to make the clearance. So I'm just checking here where the white ball is going to end up, so I should be able to stun this yellow to the middle, clipping off the red, moving it out of the way, and then hopefully stop on the red further up the table. So let's move the red out of the way nicely. Came off the side of the red, but it still left me with a decent shot to the middle. Now I can just play this to the middle and drop down, allowing me to pot either of the 2 balls to the bottom corner. Nice and gentle, so I can just stun this one and then play the one back to the middle. And again, just another little screw back just to bring me back nice and straight on the one back to the middle. So there's nothing, I'm not moving the ball around too much, nice simple little shots, just planned out nicely to make every shot nice and easily. Make sure that you're not going to give anything that you might miss, and then a nice straight shot on the black to finish. Now, what you'll often come up against in a game is a player who will aggressively go for a clearance of the table, but not necessarily have the skills to be able to carry that off, or without looking and planning their way around the table properly. And if you can spot that in a player early on in a game, then you can use it to your advantage. So in this instance, the player that's about to play now sees the nice easy pot on the red, goes for it, and doesn't really think about where the cue ball is going to end up. And as the yellow player, you should be looking for that, and you can see that they've not left themselves on a shot, and straight away they're already going for a double across the table, just trying to pot balls, and you can tell that they're not really thinking their way around the table. So as the yellow player here, the yellows are in a decent position, and you could potentially go for a clearance, but knowing the way that the red player is going to play, you can take your time a little bit and just get things nice and try and make things as easy as you can for yourself. So here I'm just playing the yellow down into the corner, so that that's left that red a bit difficult. They now can't pot that red down to the bottom corner, and the red player again is going to come in and they're looking for a pot straight away. There isn't an easy one on, so they're going to look around, not really thinking about any safety play, just thinking, how can I pot a ball? So we'll probably come around here and probably try and play some sort of double across the table. Again, not making any pot. Now the red's not in a great, the yellows, sorry, are not in a great position here. You've got that yellow on the side cushion there. So again, we're not going to go for any clearance here. We're just trying to bide our time. Just looking at balls, so we can take this yellow to the middle and try and cover that middle pocket, whilst also moving that red into a safer position so that they can't pot that red down to the corner pocket. The red player again comes into the table, sees a pot up to the corner, go straight in and take that pot. Now quite often with these players, they'll miss a pot, or they might make a lot of these pots, but if they're not thinking about their position on the next shot, then that gives you a little bit of time for you to think about the way you're playing as the yellow player. So here I'm going to play this ball down to the corner, not trying to pot it, It's just getting another ball over a pocket. So now the black ball doesn't go to either of the bottom corners. So it gives us another little bit of security. The red player comes in and sees a few pots, comes in, just pots some balls. Now they might get a few decent positions, they might pot a few balls in a row, but you don't need to worry because you can see that the red player is clearly not paying any attention to this red ball that's at the bottom of the table that doesn't go. All they're concentrating on is potting as many balls as they can, thinking they're doing well, they're potting balls. But unless you pay attention to those difficult balls, they're never going to finish. So they've played it across there. They can hit the red ball, but unless they play a miraculous double across the table, then they're never going to pot it. So they move the ball across. Now, in doing that, they've also put the black in a really bad position for them. The yellow player now has the advantage that the black doesn't go until they've potted those yellows. So the yellow player can now either go for the clearance, or if you've got a nice easy snooker like that, then you can play up and try and give yourself 2 shots to make it even easier to finish. The red player again is just trying to get out of the snooker if possible. Gets out of it, but knocks it down into the area. So now the red doesn't go and the black doesn't go. So the yellow's now definitely got an advantage. Ideally, you want to leave the 2 yellows over the pockets because that's what's stopping the red player from winning. So probably just drop this yellow across the table just to pot that one into the middle, but keep that corner covered. But we haven't because it's moved across too far. So rather than going for any clearance here, I'm just going to knock that back in front of that pocket again so that the red player hasn't got a shot. So the red player will probably try some sort of double across the table again, but even if they make it, the black ball doesn't really go, so there's nothing to worry about. Now the yellow player here again could go for a clearance, but we've got this yellow on the cushion, so it's not great. So we can use this opportunity to play a long shot up the table, knowing that even if we miss it, like we have done there, the red player's got no shot because the corners are covered. So the red player again is going to try and come off a few cushions and try and find some way round of getting the red into play. Now they've managed to get the red up into a decent position, which is quite hard to snooker them in. Again, we don't really want to go for the clearance here yet because of that yellow on the cushion. So this is a good opportunity to just move that ball off the cushion and possibly get a snooker at the same time, all the while knowing that the black is in a fairly safe position. So even if we don't quite get the snooker, we know that the red player is not likely to finish up. So we can just move the yellow off the cushion. Just about got the snooker, I think. The red player being aggressive is probably going to still go for this, play a bit of a swerve shot, try and pot the red, doesn't quite make it. And now the yellow player is in a really good position. All of the yellow balls are nicely open, and we've got the black as a safety net as well. So we'll leave that yellow over the corner pocket as long as possible whilst going for the other balls. We've got that nice confidence that even if we miss, the red player is not going to come in and sneak the game from us. So we can take our time planning our way through all of these shots. Got plenty of space because there's no reds in the way. Trying to keep the balls, everything nice and gentle. We're not hitting anything too hard, so we know where things are likely to end up. Again, he'll probably just play a little plant down to the corner just to keep those corner pockets covered so that the black doesn't go. Now we're in a great position. We can take our choice here. We'll play the one to the bottom right corner first, so we pop back up, make sure we're not snookering ourselves on the black. A nice little angle just to pop up again, and then roll the black into the corner. So if you're playing in a league or fairly decent level of competition, then what's more likely to happen as compared to that last game is that you'll have 2 players that are thinking about what they're doing. Maybe not the best potters in the world, but they'll be aware of trying to get position and what not to do, and won't just be going for any shot like that last red player was. So here the first player is having a look around at the table, seeing if either set of balls go. Now you can see there's 3 balls down the bottom here that are all tying each other up, so neither the reds or the yellow are particularly good. There's also the yellow and red that are touching each other in the middle of the table, and there's a red over on the cushion. So you're not likely to go for a clearance here. It's just a case of choosing which you prefer and thinking about how you're going to get going on this shot. So he's going for the yellow to the middle, try and move that red out of the way, freed up one of the yellows. But still, there's not really a clearance on here at the moment. So not really looking at potting all of the balls. Maybe try and pot this one to the middle just to give us a decent angle off the middle ball down into that little cluster. But we've missed the pot. So not the end of the world, it's covered that pocket. Now the red player, again, can't finish up because of the red tied up down the bottom. And they've got the difficult ball over on the left-hand cushion. So with those balls being tied up down at the bottom, they might use this opportunity to try and get that ball off the cushion just to bring it into play, with the knowledge that the yellow player is not likely to go ahead and clear up the table. The shot's also been played in such a way that doesn't leave anything particularly easy for the yellows. So there is a pot to the top corner, but it's awkward queuing, so it's not ideal. The yellow player, again, is not likely to go for a clearance from here. I don't really want to move this one in the centre of the table because that does give them a decent angle to get into the balls at the bottom. So it might just be worth trying to play the yellow up to the top corner, even though it's difficult. Just play it nice and gentle so that if you miss it, it's still hanging over the pocket nicely. So it's not too bad, fairly close to the pocket. Red player still can't really go for the clearance because of the balls at the bottom. So he might be looking to maybe develop this red on the right hand cushion and trying to cover that bottom corner pocket, because that yellow there that goes into that pocket is another route for the yellow player to possibly be able to dislodge that cluster of balls. So even though it's not an easy shot, looking at the plant here, just to move the one away from the middle, which doesn't go to the middle pocket, and to put a ball over that corner pocket. So now that corner pocket is blocked from the yellow, so the yellow player can't pot that ball and dislodge all the balls over there. So they still haven't got a clearance either. So the yellow player is probably thinking here about trying to develop those balls so that they can pot them, but at the same time not freeing it up so that the yellow has, so that the red player has a clearance. So he's going to drop that ball into there and move those two at the same time. So again, they've not allowed the red player a clearance and just developed their yellow balls just that little bit further. Now the red player here hasn't really got a lot of options. They don't really want to pot anything because they want to keep as many balls on the table as possible. Ideally they'd like to get this red here in front of the two yellows, but I don't think I've quite got the angle to do that. Don't really want to move this one down here because it's blocking the yellow. So he's just going to try and tap this across and try and get it in front of the two yellows. It's actually come back too far and it's almost in the same place. Now the yellow player, again, still doesn't really go. They might be able to sneak this yellow past the red over on the right hand side. So it might be worth just trying to cut this yellow in here if it goes. It doesn't, but it's still kept that corner pocket covered. So the red player is still can't finish up. So the red player now is looking at moving this red, even though it's a riskier shot coming off the cushion, moving it back over to this side of the table because it wasn't doing them any favours being over there, trying to block that yellow to the corner. Doesn't look as though it's quite blocked it, so the yellow player is in quite a good position here. The yellow player obviously has blocked it, so the yellow players are going to move that ball out, knowing that this plant down to the bottom corner for the reds doesn't go. So the red player is still not likely to go for the clearance. Now they've not really got a shot on here, the red player. They can't plant those two balls into the bottom corner. We've got various plants across the table to the middle, but all far too risky to go for. So not a lot they can do here. So really the red player is just going to try and just move these two apart and pull the white back into there just to make it a little bit more difficult for the yellow player, but they've still left the yellow player on here. Now the yellow player is now in a decent position. They can plant these, all of their balls go fairly easily to the pockets. The only ball that's slightly difficult is the black because it's surrounded by those reds. So what we'll probably do here is play the plant to the middle and try and just move some of those reds out of the way, just freeing up the black a little bit. We know that the yellows are all in decent positions and fairly easy to pot, so we can take this opportunity just to try and make things easier for that black at the end. So that's moved one of them out of the way nicely, but unfortunately it's put it in the path of the ball that we were hoping to be on afterwards. So now the yellow player has got himself into a bit of trouble. So not really got a huge amount of options here. There's nothing they can pot directly, so I'm having to look at a way of putting the white up the top end of the table to make the reds as difficult as possible. I'm going to play off this yellow and try and play into that one that's hanging over the top corner. Not quite made it, but it's moved it nicely over the pocket, and it's not left anything particularly easy for the red player. So the red player is in a bit of difficulty here because the yellows all go nice and they know if they miss then the yellow player is going to clear up. So the only real option here for the red player is to play a containing shot, and they're going to just roll this red at the bottom down and try and cover that bottom corner pocket so that the yellow player can't finish. And there they've got it nicely in front of it. Now it still goes so they can pot it themselves, but the yellow player can't finish up. So now the yellow player needs to be careful because the reds are in a fairly decent position. So the only real option for the yellow player is to try and get that yellow back in front of the red. Now it hasn't gone in front of the red, so that's not a great shot from the yellow player. But that red doesn't go. So the red player's got an option here. They can try and bring another ball into play, which hasn't quite worked out. Now that nearly worked out nicely and made those potable, but it's now moved the yellow into a position where the yellow ball can pot. So now the yellow player is in a really good position. They can pot this ball and then come up to the other end of the table. And now they're in a good position to finish. Now the only thing they've got to worry about here is the black only goes to that middle pocket. It's covered to the two bottom corners and to the opposite middle. So the yellow player just needs to plan carefully their route around these three balls to make sure that they finish up down here to have a shot on the black. So we'll play the little plant here first to start with. And then we'll come round. We need to be playing that ball to the middle, but we need to be coming off it at an angle so that we can run down into that space to be able to pot the black. So we're going to pot this yellow to the corner and just try and end up as close to the side cushion as possible to leave us a nice angle to run down onto the black. So it's nicely done there, just leaving a nice little cut to the middle. And then we should just be able to naturally just roll down and play the shot fairly softly to give the ball a good chance of dropping into the middle. And then rolls down nicely onto the black. And then the black for the finish. And he bottles it and he misses it. So now the red player, who thought he was in trouble, has got an advantage really, because they've got a lot more balls on the table, so they can use these to their advantage. So we'll take a nice straight shot to start with. And you need to be aware because the black's over the middle pocket. So I could go for this red up the table to the corner, but if I miss it, then I'm leaving a dead straight black to the middle. So I'm going to take a different option. I'm going to take this one down here, knowing that if I miss this one, it's a lot harder shot on the black. So I've played that down there. Now I'd like to try and pot this one to the corner and try and get back to get this ball down the rail, which is slightly tricky. But unfortunately, I've not quite gone far enough. So I've got no option but to play this one down the bottom. So I can play this one and try and play this with a bit of top and try and get back up for a better position on that one up the rail. But again, it's the same sort of situation as before. If I play this shot and don't make it, I'm leaving the black on. So opting here to just try and move this off the cushion and try and get a snooker in behind it. And it looks as though it might have left a tiny little gap. So although it was probably the right shot to play, it's not quite come off. It looks as though I've slightly overhit it. It's not the easiest of pots on the black, but there's always a chance. And there's a decent long pot to take the game. If you want to see more practice routines and pool tutorials, then please remember to subscribe. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I use in this video, then there are links in the description below.